How's it going, everybody? It is your boy Poppy Wolf, and this week we're gonna be talking about Mortal Kombat. The new movie just dropped. I just watched it not even 5 minutes ago, and I have to say, bro, this movie was pretty cool. This movie was pretty dope. I actually really liked it a lot. I think I should give you guys my overall score, then go into the synopsis of the movie. And then, I'll get to spoilers at the end. I want to be organized with my thoughts and for these movie reviews. I said I was going to do Kong versus Godzilla, but that movie was, as much as I liked it, I just didn't know how to talk about it because there really wasn't anything to talk about. It was what it was. It was the quick review of that is it was cool. It was dope. And, the monster fights are awesome. Human storyline, wish it was better. Yada yada yada. I think everybody's talked about this enough. But Mortal Kombat, man. Mortal Kombat, honestly, had me hyped. It had me hyped, man. Okay. Let me get the big questions out of the way first. For people who are gonna want to know if this movie's worth watching, and if it's better than the original, if it's way better than 2, of course it was gonna be better than 2. If it's worth watching at all, I say yes. I say this movie is it's good. It's nice. It's a Mortal Kombat. If you're a fan of the video games and you're a fan of the action scenes alone, are what put it above at least at a B plus. The action scenes alone put it at a B plus. Now the parts I don't like about this movie, they do knock it down a little bit for me, but it's not so low where I'm gonna say it's a C. No. I think my overall rating of this movie is a solid B. I think it's awesome. I think it's good. I think you can have a lot of fun with it, and if you kind of just enjoy the ride that you go on, you're gonna be hyped. You're gonna fangirl. You're gonna be like, oh, I know that's a reference to that, or that's a reference to that. And there's a lot of fun Easter eggs that they drop in this too that I really adore. And I think I don't want to make an Easter egg video. I don't got enough time to go and pinpoint everything I liked about this movie. But it is definitely chock full of Easter eggs. It is pretty fun. I highly recommend somebody anyone who's just a fan of Mortal Kombat watch this movie. I know Rotten Tomatoes give it a 53. I think that's a little harsh. I could see why they wanted to put it at 53, but in my honest opinion, I'd say it's at least an 80% at bare minimum. It's fun, it's cool, it's definitely something I'd love to watch in theaters, and it's one of those movies where I'm like, you know what, that was pretty dope, that was cool. I fucked with it. I could watch this movie again and still get just as hyped, just like how I watched the first Mortal Kombat movie and everything else that's Mortal Kombat related. Now let's jump into the synopsis of the movie. And of course, I already said, let me back up track. Yes, it is better. For me personally, I like it better than the original. Wes Anderson, was it W.S. Anderson? The W.S. Anderson? Paul Anderson? No, what was the director's name? He did the Resident Evil ones. He did Mortal Kombat. Anyways, yeah, him. This is better than the original. I liked it better than the original. I thought it was cool. Thought it was fun. And it was very interesting. It was very... they did some things that are different in the mythos, but I like what they're doing. They made some brave changes that I'm not 100% with, but looking at it, I can kind of be like, you know what, that's kind of cool. I like how they're doing it. Regardless, so let's jump into the synopsis of the movie. So the movie is about the chosen ones, these chosen few that have this dragon symbol on them, a symbol dedicated to letting them know that they're the chosen ones and that they are meant to compete in the Mortal Kombat tournament, and that Outrealm, the realm that is trying to invade, has at least won 9 out of the 10 times. They just need one more win, then they can come conquer. It's the same synopsis of the video games. It doesn't change. The one thing that is an interesting add-on is the way they start the movie. They start the movie with a very touching scene that we didn't expect. We have a hidden character that we kind of could have guessed who they were going to be, or who they were going to try to make them become, and it definitely does in a sense work. It's an interesting add on to the movie that makes this feel. It's not like we're getting the same thing retold from the video games. It's a new, fresh perspective, and it's not so off the beaten path where we're thinking, oh, like I don't want this in my movie. But it's just new and fresh enough that it works, and you're like, okay, I jive with that. I can get behind what's happening, what they're doing, and yeah, it is, for to say the least, a very interesting point. So yes, of course we know the champions, but the only thing about this is we know the tournament's supposed to happen, but Shang Tsung decides that he wants to attack. Before the tournament begins, he wants to get a fresh start on the competition, take them out before we even start the competition, and that's kind of the synopsis of the movie. It's a cool idea of like this being they're trying to go for a series of movies. I can see why this one was good. It does a lot of setup, at the same time not letting setup be more than it has to be. It does enough narration to let us know what's gonna happen, or what's the overall arching idea of the story, of the mythos that is Mortal Kombat. But it also gives us this breather. It gives us breathers to digest what we're seeing, because this movie is, I want to say, at least it's an hour 48, hour 50, and there's moments where I was thinking they should have just made this 2 hours and something changed so we could really just enjoy the ride. But I understand they don't want to lose the attention span of the fans, so they want to just keep it going to a healthy pace. And it works. It does. Of course, we find out, we see what happens as the characters are getting jumped and picked off one by one. Eventually they come into contact with Raiden. They learn that they have to unlock the special arcanias with their powers, that each person with the marking of the dragon has a special power that can be unlocked through training of finding oneself. Eventually the characters learn this, and eventually they have another fight with Outworld, and they lose the second fight, only for them to get back up to regain some clarity, and then eventually win the final battle. And a cool final battle sequence at the end with the big boss. It really does feel like a video game, because they do kind of have the big boss at the end, and it's interesting who the big boss is, and it is very fun. And the ending fight is probably what ultimately makes this movie like a B for me. It saves it from falling down to a C plus to a C movie. It saves it a lot, because this movie could definitely just been like this without the hyped fight scenes, and just be, it was cool, it was average, it was whatever. I could watch it if it was on. But this fight scene alone is what pushes it, which is what tips the scale for me. And I'm trying not to be biased, because if I'm not biased, this movie honestly is almost A tier. It's teetering B to A tier. And I would love to give it to A tier, but I just don't feel like it's A tier. As a non-biased opinion, it is not. It is a lot of faults in it that keep it from being close to A tier, but it keeps it in the B tier running. So I think I want to talk about I gave a brief synopsis about it, because I didn't want to spoil you guys, but just know this, it's just, it feels like a fighting game. It really does. You lose, and then you win the final battle. But let's jump right into, let's go into the spoilers of it, and then we're gonna talk about what I liked and didn't like. So guys, if you guys want to know the brief synopsis of it, and that felt like already big spoiler, then I'd just say right now, right here where you're at, stop the video, go watch the movie, and come back, because right now I'm gonna go through the storyline and talk about what I liked and what I didn't like as I'm going along with it, only because the brief synopsis alone should have given you the idea of is it worth oh, okay, that sounds cool, or okay, so this is how they're doing it. So we're going right into it. You guys ready? 3, 2, 1. All right, so spoiler time. You guys already had enough warning. The movie begins with Sub-Zero, or of course with Hanzo and his wife and his son, just kind of relaxing. We hear a baby crying. It turns out that this is Hanzo's daughter and Jubei's little sister, and this is of course a new change from the mythos. Scorpion's never had a daughter, so this is an interesting tidbit to add into this movie, and it definitely wasn't something I was against, especially when in the beginning I thought she was gonna die, but it's definitely not something I was against. So we see Hanzo. He's gonna go get a pail of water. He's gonna go fetch more water for his wife, so she doesn't have to do it. His son goes to check on the daughter, his little sister, of course, and the mom eventually goes there too. They start feeling a cold breeze, a chill in the air, only to eventually be attacked by the Lin Kuei. For those who don't know the background story behind the Lin Kuei and the Shirai Ryu, which is Scorpion's clan, is very simple. Back in China, the Lin Kuei were master assassins. They would pick up people from different countries with special abilities, with any type of power, and they would teach them how to fight and turn them into ninja assassins. Eventually, they took in one person from Japan, and this person would eventually leave and found his own crew, his own clan, which would be later known as the Shirai Ryu. That's why, of course, the Shirai Ryu and the Lin Kuei styles of fighting are so close. Just remember, the Lin Kuei is from China, the Shirai Ryu is from Japan. Got it? Good. All right, let's continue. So, of course, Bihan, the leader of the Lin Kuei, who is obviously Sub-Zero, attacks the family, kills both Jubei and Hanzo's wife. We do not see the baby there, so the baby's hidden away safely, as Hanzo's wife assumed the worst would happen. Of course, Bihan has the rest of the Lin Kuei attacking Hanzo's estate to, get the ambush on him. We do see an amazing fight scene with Hanzo as he kind of John Wicks the whole scene. He runs through all the minor Lin Kuei members only to go to find Hanzo waiting for him. And this is where the fight begins. For people who have such rich history in their ninja clans, they've probably only met this one time. And this is like their infamy goes beyond countries. So this is the fight between not just two rival clans, but two great masters of their craft, martial artists, people like assassins. These are literally the fight between titans. And Sub-Zero, because of the fact that he does have his ice abilities, does come up on top. Although Hanzo does put up a decent fight through this, the fight scene alone, the way they choreographed it, felt like I was in the fighting game. It was quick, it was simple, there was counters, there was maneuvers. This fight scene was very fluid, and I think this is what Mortal Kombat, the movie 2021, really thrives on, is how well they're able to capture those quick time movements. I know there's a lot of people are going to say, oh, the CGI kind of undid it for me. There's moments where the CGI kind of but like there's also moments where it really looked great. So the fight scene's impeccable. I just loved the way it looked. They weren't afraid to get bloody for bloody's sake, and it wasn't like bloody where like unneededly did something to do something. It felt purposeful. That's what I have to say. Like each fatality, each blow in this movie felt very purposeful, and I really, really liked it. So, of course, Hanzo loses. He's freezing to death because, of course, Sub-Zero stabs him through. And as he's dying, he fades into the underworld where his ashes are burning later. And he, of course, goes to Outrealm. Was it Outrealm? No, it's Underworld. It's Underworld. It's hell, basically. He goes to hell. And then Netherrealm. That's where he goes. Eventually, we end up seeing Raiden appear. Raiden appears, and then he takes Hanzo's daughter, and thus the movie credits begin. It's Mortal Kombat. It is what it is. We fast forward to this, I want to say he's like in his 30s, 30-year-old fighter named Cole Young, and he's, fighting, and I guess he's paid to lose. That's what he's doing, or he's paid to put up a decent fight, but then, of course, lose. He gets $200 there. His daughter's there. And it just seems like he does this more for them than himself. And it's such an interesting thing to see him just be like, all right, $200 to take a dive. I guess it is what it is. Even his own coach or trainer or the referee, whatever he is, seems a little like irritated. Like, bro, like you don't want to do more. You don't want to try to go for like the win. But I guess the loss makes more money than the win. He is being scouted by a man watching him fight and noticing his ability. Eventually, after the fight, he loses. He goes to take his daughter for ice cream to later meet up with his wife. And then we switch over to a scene in Outworld where Shang Tsung, we get introduced to Shang Tsung. He tells Sub-Zero, look, before the competition even begins, I need you to take out some of the members. Got it? Good. Go handle. And of course, Sub-Zero goes, and he handles like a champion. He shows up, he makes ice, and you know how he does. You know how he does. It's Sub-Zero. Come on. What more do I need to say? This man makes ice, and he shoots it. He does look a little twisted, a little bit more bloodthirsty. And one thing I do want to say about this movie is Sub-Zero ultimately has always been, in a way, kind of the good guy. We've always portrayed him as the good guy, while Scorpion's always been the anti-hero. And in this instant, they really made Sub-Zero the bad guy. And they made him the overpowered bad guy. And I kind of really like this a lot. It's a new way to look at Sub-Zero, and it's a new way to look at beyond Sub-Zero. Especially if you know what happens to Bihan later and how he becomes something else, it is interesting to see that this is where his character goes. Of course, he attacks Cole, only for Jax, who reveals himself after the fight to Cole that he's here to help him and that they're being hunted down because they're chosen to be champions in the Mortal Kombat tournament. And then he says, look, I'm going to go fight Sub-Zero, take your wife and daughter, go hide somewhere, then go meet up with this chick named Sonya Blade. I will come find you guys later. Oh, guys, I got to say this about the actor who plays Jax. He plays him well. Not overly confident, but just confident enough to be like, all right, I got this. The fight between Sub-Zero and Jax is relatively fast. It's still really good. Like I said, the fights in this movie are fan-fucking-tastic. They're the way they're choreographed, whatever the word is for. The way they're put together is fantastic. Even like the simple like one-sided fight of Jax versus Sub-Zero was amazing. And seeing the whole like seeing his arms get frozen and then eventually broken off, and the way that he pushes him, like the grittiness that this movie goes to like do that little sucker blow, especially when he pushes him and he hits like this side piece of like falling debris and like hits his head on that, then falls down again, is fucking gritty, man. It's I wouldn't say it's unneeded, but it's that little like sucker punch to the characters that we just love seeing in the Mortal Kombat games. Eventually Cole puts his family in the safe house, tells them to stay there, and he goes in search of Sonya Blade. Once he finds Sonya, they have a quick little scene only to like get told the whole premise of what's happening around him. Sonya, I guess, explains to him more that the Mortal Kombat is something that's been ancient times. It's been foresaw, and that, you know, champions are chosen. That her and Jax, during the military time they spent together, they fought somebody. I don't necessarily know who they're talking about. This is someone with powers. I think it's Smoke. I'm not 100% sure, but I thought it was Smoke that they're referring to. But they said they beat him, and of course Jax is the one that killed him and gained his mark, which is why Jax is now a chosen one. Then we get introduced to probably the one character in this movie that is just so much fun. He's hilarious, and that is Kano. It turns out that when they were searching for one of the chosen ones, Kano killed him and took his mark. Thus, Sonya decided to take him in his custody, kidnap him, and keep him in a bunker. Sonya's been researching the Mortal Kombat tournament for years and centuries, and Cole, like everybody else who with a normalized brain, would be like, what the fuck is Mortal Kombat? That sounds retarded. Why is it spelled different? And she gives him the real answer. She gives him the real, I want to say testimony, but she does give him the base of what the whole idea of Mortal Kombat is. You know, you win, you fight, your realm is saved. One cool thing I will say this is during this Outworld scene, Shang Tsung sends Reptile, but he calls Reptile by his real name, and I thought that was cool. That's a nice little tidbit to the video games, which we barely find out Reptile's name in Mortal Kombat X, which is revealed through Raiden's dialogue with him, that we find out his real name is, and of course his race being Saurian, he's more reptile, like human, lizard man kind of thing. The one cool thing is the way they've depicted Reptile in this movie. He's more like his Mortal Kombat Deception counterpart, where he's more lizard-like. He has a tail and everything. If you don't know, Saurians are the more they're around their queen, the more human they look. The more they're far away from the queen, the more they regress into this kind of lizard man being. I digress. Seeing them fight Reptile was pretty cool. I really dug it. It was an interesting fight seeing Sonya and Cole kind of try to like fight an invisible opponent, only for Kano to break free and be the one who wins. Again, the fight scenes in this, they're really interesting how they're put together, especially the tight quarter fights, and I just love the grittiness of it. Seeing Kano rip out Reptile's heart and like smile and say Kano wins, and just it was just fun. Seeing him like sketch it out was even funnier. Saying like the beer's piss poor, like Kano's whole character, like in this first act or the second act of first and second act of the movie is just enjoyable. I think he's what makes this movie so bearable in those kind of like early scenes is his humor, his piss poor attitude, and the very fact that the trailers led us to believe that Kano was going to be on the side of good, and I like how they set it up kind of to where it makes it look like that. Of course, after that, Kano decides that, look, I'm going to, like, I know where the place you're looking for is, but I'm not taking you. Sonya lies to him, says, I'll give you $3 million. They haggled for almost $2 million, $3 million, of course, my bad. And they haggle a bit. She decides, okay, I'll take you to Raiden's temple, and we can, you can fuck around over there. Eventually, as they're wandering through the desert, Kano and Sonya have a little squabble. Sonya shows why, even though she doesn't have a mark, because this is a big thing, Sonya doesn't have a mark in this movie. She shows why she's just as formidable without it. It's pretty dope. Like, that little fight scene is pretty funny. It's like kind of a reference back to the first Mortal Kombat, where the first actual fight in the tournament, I believe, is Kano versus Sonya Blade. I like it. I thought it was cool. So we jump over to Liu Kang, who finds them wandering the desert, lets them know, like, look, I'm here as a friend. You guys are the chosen ones. Come to the temple of Raiden, and we have to start your training right away, so that way you guys don't get picked off one by one. It's pretty fast paced from here on out, and I can see why this part is hard. It's hard to do training arcs in a movie, especially not early in the movie, but like midway through it. But they do a good job right here, because eventually they all meet Raiden, and Raiden kind of picks apart each of them. He tells them their flaws. Cole being, his heart not being in it, Sonya Blade not being actually chosen by the mark, and of course Kano being literally Kano. He lets them know that they need to get their mark, because you can't perform your abilities without your mark. Your arcana, it comes from your mark, your blade. Your dragon seal that shows that you're a champion. So that's how they explain the powers in this. It's interesting. Usually they use technology for some of the human characters that aren't born with special abilities. So this was kind of cool to do. So of course, during the training montage, we get introduced to Kung Lao and Liu Kang as they're about to fight Shang Tsung and a bunch of the other Outworld team, because they're trying to, like, again, pick them off before the tournament can even begin. And Raiden puts in a seal that keeps them from coming against them at all. One thing I love to say is we see Goro pop out, and we even see Natasha or Nisha, which is a character from the 3D era that a lot of people have been wanting to see in the video games now. I'm really happy. She's a vampire, I believe, or she's a vampire. Or succubus. No, she's a vampire. No, she's a vampire. And she's a character that we've all wanted to see for the longest time. And the fact that they put her in the movie was pretty cool. That was points towards the movie. I was like, you know what? Good on you, movie. Giving us a couple characters. But the one character that they do show us that I was kind of really upset seeing was Reiko. Now, Reiko is supposed to be kind of like this handsome, like, barbarian, grotesque person, and they really gave it to this one actor who I just didn't believe he was Reiko. He wasn't conniving, he wasn't smart aleck, I didn't believe he was Reiko. And this is like, again, this is one part of it that just really kind of kills it for me, because Reiko is one of the 3D era like Mortal Kombat characters that I really really liked a lot, along with Havoc and a bunch of other ones. So that was disappointing, honestly, for my part. I just wish they did Reiko just a bit better. So that kind of was points against the movie. Eventually, they have a training montage with each person learning their gifts. During a table scene, we find out that Kano's able to shoot laser beams out of his eye, which is, I think, in the actual game it's explained through technology, but I'm pretty sure they'll explain it later that it is technology technically, or that the technology helps him do it. We do see that Jax has been picked up because Liu Kang found him, and they're trying to put him back together as best as they can. The monks are using cybernetic builds to kind of replace the damaged arms. The only good thing is that because the ice cauterized the wounds, he is going to live. During the fight scenes, again, as everybody's unlocking their power, the only person who isn't able to unlock an ability, or at the very least, the only person who gets shit on for not unlocking his ability is Cole, because it's just impossible to. After a talk with Raiden lets him know that he is the descendant of Hanzo Asashi. His mother was, his great ancestor was the baby that was saved by Raiden and of course taken to the temple to be raised. And that is who Cole is related to. He's related to Scorpion. It was a cool little thing. I think we all knew it. We all kind of could have guessed this going into the movie, especially through the trailers. And it works. I didn't hate it too much. I was very indifferent about it. I was like, okay, that's cool, I guess. I mean, is he gonna? My biggest fear was that he was gonna be possessed by Scorpion, and he was gonna be Scorpion. That was my biggest fear, and I'm really happy they didn't do that. So that was good. We jump over to Cole as he leaves, and he kind of needs to find himself. He goes back to his family, and he kind of feels defeated, only to be paralleled with the scene from Outworld, as we see one of my favorite fucking characters. I'm so happy he came out in this, is fucking Cabal. When Cabal tells him, look, I can, Kano, piece of shit, you'll like him. He'll do anything for fucking money. And Cabal's probably one of the coolest characters in this movie, my guy. I'm really happy that they didn't CG the mask or anything. They really went with the very bulky robotic look of it, and I fucking loved it. Oh, the fact that they did Cabal so good made me forget about the whole Reiko situation a lot. So that was really good. Cabal ends up tempting Kano to just betray them, get money, fuck it. And this is where we see Kano become evil. He breaks the scepter that's using the shield spell, and then of course the onslaught begins. We have Shang Tsung just basically says, have at thee, go at them, show them what you got. And everyone gets attacked by each individual character. We see Liu Kang being attacked by Cabal. We see Melina attacking Sonya Blade. We see Reiko attacking Jax. And we see Natasha attacking Kung Lao. And then, of course, Goro attacks Cole, which was pretty fucking interesting. Let's go in a nice order of who defeated who first. So the fight between Goro and Cole was pretty fucking cool. I liked how it begins with Goro dominating and Goro just being his Shokin badass self. I really love how they did Goro in this. I love how he talks a bit. They didn't make him too cartoony. The CGI at times kind of lagged, but it definitely did look good in certain aspects of it too. I gotta admit that. I thought it was kind of funny that his ability to make this kind of bodysuit shield came out of the fact that he uses the bracelet that his daughter had made for him, intertwined with black and yellow, which was interesting because black and yellow are the colors of the Shiru Ryu, of course, being Scorpion's colors scheme in every game. He makes a body shield. He fights Goro to be able to save his wife and his kid. And it is such a nice fight. He uses these MMA moves, and he's just he's just going through Goro, and I really like it a lot. He makes these tonfas. It's such a cool fight. I actually like the fight with Goro a lot, and even when Goro loses, I was like, fuck, that's brutal, bro. The intestines come out. They put a fucking they through his eyes. It was, to say the very least, fucking brutal. And then, of course, we see the next fight that we end up seeing is Kung Lao versus Natasha. And I was kind of hoping they were going to make Kung Lao badass in this. So they kind of do and they kind of don't. So seeing Kung Lao fight is a beauty. He with the hat, the maneuvering of it, it's awesome. The way he fights Natasha, fucking amazing. I like how they went with they kind of mixed the both personalities of Kung Lao. Kung Lao being in the original timeline of the video games, of course, Mortal Kombat 1 all the way through Mortal Kombat Armageddon, was very, he wasn't overly confident. He was very stoic. He was never jealous of Liu Kang and wanted the spotlight. He was very like the brother that Liu Kang had. While they do show this off, they also play with his more abrasive side that the newer games do, where he's kind of overly confident. And I really like how they mix both those personalities for Kung Lao in this movie. It really makes him shine a lot. It gives him a little bit more personality. And the way he kills Natasha is fucking amazing. Like, he literally slams this bitch right through his fucking hat, and he splits it down the middle, pause, in the best fucking way possible. I fucking loved it. I thought it was dope. And yeah, I just wish that they would survive. And of course, Shang Tsung seeing Natasha die, he's really pissed about this, and he grabs, of course, Kung Lao and kills him. Something that it never escapes anything in any Mortal Kombat game. Kung Lao always has to die, sadly, and we see him take his soul, and of course, Cabal holding down Liu Kang is like, bro, you're gonna love this. He's gonna take your buddy's soul, and you about to hate this bullshit. Liu Kang tries to rush in to save the day. It didn't work. It didn't. But Raiden does summon all his fighters back in the nick of time. So before he gets his soul taken after the death of Natasha, Raiden's able to summon all the fighters away. So he saves. So Jax is able to regain his arms. And I'm jumping all around this review because it's still kind of fresh in my mind. But yeah, after they all got onslaught, so after the fight between Mileena and Sonya gets rocked and she gets almost eaten, but because Mileena tastes the blood and notices she's not a champion, she throws her to Kano. Kano, a fucking savage, like after the side pierced the shoulder blade of Sonya Blade, he puts the finger in it, tosses her around. He's just brutalizing her. He throws her to the fucking edge of the cliff, and there she meets Jax. Jax later got beat by he got his shit rocked by the wannabe Reiko, and with his low tech arms, he wasn't able to stand up against him whatsoever. But after the fight scene, after the onslaught, after they're all getting beat down, to save Sonya Blade from a rock that's squishing her, Jax unlocks his arcana, which is, I guess, the arcana is the ability, the special powers, I guess, come from your heart or your soul. So the fact that Jax already had metal arms, he's able to make bigger, buffer metal arms. It's kind of cool. I mean, the whole power system that they're explaining based off of a seal mark is the way you get your powers. It's kind of cool, I guess. It makes kind of sense. I guess it's the safest way without having to like bring in overly like technology and explain like, where'd you guys get this technology from, and make it a whole big issue. But again, it's a movie. I'm liking the way they're explaining the powers. I'll roll with it. It's a thing I'm indifferent about. So after Raiden summons all the fighters back, Shang Tsung kills Kung Lao to just to take his soul. And as everybody's getting teleported away, the only thing that Liu Kang's able to grab is the hat and the headband. It's a sad death. It really does, because we didn't see this character on screen for long, but the death does give this movie some weight to it that, like, damn, none of these characters are safe and they gotta win. We get into this the third act of the movie, where they're all making plans on how they're gonna go fight. They make it more tournament based, more fight game based, where Cole's the leading the team, and he goes, "Look, this is who's gonna fight who. I'm gonna fight Mileena. Sonya, you're gonna fight Kano. Jax, you're gonna fight Reiko. And at the end, we'll all team up on Sub-Zero and show him who's boss." The fights in the third act are pretty fucking amazing. One of my favorites is Sonya Blade versus Kano. It's fought in this tight quartered area, and it's very like, you know, touch base kind of fight where she's hiding around the house and she's like tapping him, cutting him down. Like, it's so good. It is gritty. They're in the house, they're going in and out of the house, they're fighting through, and it's just so awesome. I really like it a lot. I think if the whoever, like I said, whoever choreographed these fight scenes, he probably had the most fun doing this one, because they're like literally kicking each other all over the walls and shit. They're like going through the window, going outside in the front yard. Like, it is pretty fantastic. I really like this one's the one for me that was like most interesting and really more appealing to watch. Eventually, we jump over to like Sonya wins this by stabbing Kano in the eye with a garden gnome, which he earlier said like, "Fuck, I hate garden gnomes," which is a cool little like callback in the movie. We see Jax versus Reiko, and this fight is pretty simple. It was not, to say the least. It's probably the worst fight in this entire movie. They really don't show off Reiko's skill a lot, and that's what really hurts my heart, because it's just Jax dominating Reiko with like his strength and eventually squashing his head and fucking him up. It's pretty one-sided, and it's probably the weakest fight in this movie. The only cool thing is the fatality portion of it, and other than that, like, this fight is it's very admissible. Like, I feel like it was there just to be there. The fight between Melina and Cole and Liu Kang and Cabal is probably the most cinematic part of this movie. It's so awesome seeing Liu Kang versus Cabal. Cabal's fighting in this movie looks just like the game. It's fast, it's super quick, and it's ultimately fucking amazing. Like I said, Cabal's my favorite character. They did not do him dirty in this movie whatsoever. I'm really feeling his movements. The CGI for him does not look crappy whatsoever. None of the scenes that he's whooshing around looks trashy. I love it. I love seeing fucking Cabal fight. Eventually, Liu Kang's able to get him into this little tar pit and slow him down. This Liu Kang using his ultimate fatality, a fire dragon, which was badass. I loved it. I loved how they beat Cabal. It's so badass. Even when Cabal's like, oh shit, like, it's so cool. It's so on character. Like, dude, I just loved it. I thought it was amazing. Now going over to the other part of this fight, which was Melina versus Cole. It was a pretty even fight. I like seeing Melina's like, they gave her the new Mortal Kombat face and the old one too, where she has very, like, her teeth are very like cotton, but like she kind of has normal face, only to open her mouth wider and it rips her cheek, which is fucking crazy, and it is hard to watch, but it's so bloody and gutty that you have to watch it. Only for Sonya to come in, shoot her little Sonya beams, or her angel waves, or whatever they call her, like, little blasts. And they explain it in this, that's her power now. That's the arcane ability she was able to achieve after she beat Kano. She got the mark. It was cool because in the games it's technology. Sometimes they explain. I mean, for God's sakes, they never explained Johnny Cage's abilities all the way. They only explained it in Mortal Kombat X, and everybody was just thinking, why the hell does he glow green when he fights? It's okay. I'm not hating the arcane abilities and stuff. It is what it is. I know they have to do a narrative. So as that progresses, after all of them win their fights and stuff, it gets a little one-sided for the battle. So Sub-Zero kidnaps Cole's wife and daughter and decides that he's gonna fight Cole one-on-one. He tricks him into a fight at the same cage area that the movie begins at, or for Cole's storyline at least. And the fight between Sub-Zero and Cole is pretty. It's not even. It's, want to say, 40-60. Like, Sub-Zero was dominating. Sub-Zero feels like a final boss in this final part of the movie, and it's because he's just dominating Cole. He's beating him. He's fighting him. He's literally running through him. And when Cole uses the blade of Hanzo Hasashi and gets his blood on it, it summons Hanzo Hasashi himself. And the badass way, of course, he puts the kunai through Sub-Zero, pulls in, does the classic line, "Get over here!" And this fight scene, guys, like I said, this movie honestly was probably gonna be, at the very least for me, a B. It was gonna be like a 79, 82%, like around that area. But this fight scene alone, oh my lord, oh my god, like it is just fucking amazing. Like I can't stress enough. Like the beginning scene gets you, but they amp it up to like 15 out of 10 in this final scene. Like the fight scene between Scorpion and Sub-Zero was amazing. It is like literally the selling point of this movie is seeing these guys fight and counter each other. Even the dialogue that they share with Hanzo saying, "I like you thought sending me to hell was like for like you wanted to send me to hell. Little did you know that I'd cultivate it and I'd master the flames of it." It is awesome, to say the very least, to see these two fight each other. The eventually passes along where Cole's trying to break his wife and his daughter out of the ice. It's very difficult for him to the fight eventually getting him involved now. During this final part of it, Hanzo unleashes Hellfire after the beatdown that Sub-Zero gets through Cole and Hanzo, which is probably some of the best tag team I've seen since Captain America Civil War. Like that is how good it gets. I'm talking like Jujutsu Kaisen level of like fuckery. Like that's how this like final scene gets. One cool aspect I really liked in this final part of the movie is that as Sub-Zero's losing his plating, he's in all black, which is a reference to his soon-to-be character, which will be, of course, Noob Saibot. The character arc that Sub-Zero goes through seems like it was already like they wanted to paint him going down this Noob Saibot path, and they did a fantastic job of prepping him to be that revenant that he is, not the hellspawn that Scorpion is, but the revenant that he'd eventually become, the wraith that he'd eventually become. So yeah, of course they beat Sub-Zero, and Cole gets his family, and Hanzo basically says farewell and says, "Look, I hope that you keep the bloodline clear." And then, of course, the charred remains of Sub-Zero lie there, ashes to ashes. The rest of the Earthrealm team comes up and meets Cole. They introduce him to his wife and kid. They, keep them safe. And then Shang Tsung appears, letting Raiden know, like, look, you beat my guys. Yeah, the tournament hasn't even started, and you beat my guys. It is what it is. I'm gonna just let you know, death is just one path, which is a big hint that he's gonna revive them. So that's a fun way of bringing back the characters that we saw lose come back to life. And I'm really happy about that, because as much as I'm happy that the characters died in this movie, I didn't want to see them die right off the bat. I know it's a Mortal Kombat movie, so we have to see someone die, but like, I'm just very happy that they're reviving the villains, so that way we can see them again in the next movie. It doesn't take away from the weight of it, but it does add this nice little like, okay, that's cool though. That's cool. We get to see them fight again, and maybe we'll see new characters. And of course, Raiden does a cool little thing where he shuts Shang Tsung up and then lets the whole group know, like, look, next time we fight, this is going to be an even more intense fight, so we need to get more people on our side. And they do a cool little cameo for who the next person is, and we flash forward to Cole, who is quitting his job as being the fall down man, and is told, look, I gotta go to Hollywood because I gotta go find someone. And they're like, Hollywood? Who the fuck are you gonna go find in Hollywood? And it's a big Easter egg, because we know that the next movie is gonna have, of course, Johnny Cage, and then of course it's his classic like movie poster. It's just so dope. I love it. I love that we're gonna get to see Johnny Cage really soon. This movie had like the little downs that I did have were just Raiko for me. I didn't like Raiko's character. I thought the pacing at times was a little like slow, and then it goes a little fast. Like it wasn't well balanced. I think another 20 minutes of the movie would have done it a more justice. Another thing I did not like was what I didn't like of the movie. No, I think that's it. Reiko, I didn't like his character. I didn't like how they characterized Reiko. I did not like the pacing at times in this movie, and some of the CGI moments. Some of the CGI moments kind of lagged, and it felt like, okay, whatever. Other than that, what I really did like about this movie that they did different was I love the aspect of adding Cole. I thought that was a cool way to add like a created character kind of thing in this movie. I love how they connect into Scorpion. I thought that was awesome by giving Scorpion a daughter. I love how they make Bihan the villain and kind of set up his rise to become Noob Saibot. I really liked that a lot. I thought that was such a cool aspect of making Sub-Zero the big final boss of the movie. Was just awesome because he's pretty overpowered if you think about it. The What else did I really like about the movie? I loved Kano. Kano's beginning at the end, like beginning as a good kind of character to like eventually just being a fucking asshole. I thought he really sold the movie for me. There's a lot of things I liked about this. I love the fact that they brought Natasha in because like we've never seen her in any other format other than I believe Mortal Kombat Armageddon or Mortal Kombat Deception. I loved Goro in this, of course. Love seeing Goro. I loved Cabal. Cabal's one of my favorite characters. One of my mains I use in the game. So seeing him in the movie and seeing him characterized so good was just, it was so good. It was awesome, man. I fucking loved it. Oh my god! Altogether, this movie was solid. I could watch this again a couple times, honestly. I can't really say the same for Godzilla vs King Kong. I already watched like 4 or 5 times, and I'm already like, it's cool. It's dope. It's like the ending scene is probably the best scene of Kong vs King Kong. But this movie has a lot of good scenes, portioned out of the movie. Of course, the best scene is the final fight between Sub-Zero, Cole, and Scorpion. But altogether, man, this movie, I love how it ends. It kind of sets up for the sequel, and if I had to give one big critique of this is, I think if they did this as a show, it would have been it probably would have done better pacing wise, and it would have probably done better like building up the story and allowing us to feel something for the characters. Like if you did a 2-parter episode with Liu Kang and Kung Lao, we could have really got emotionally attached to the characters. And yeah, again, I really like this movie. If they did it as a show, I think it would have benefited way better, especially if this would be like the way it would be this ending would be the ending of season 1. I would have been hooked. I would have been like, fuck HBO, you know what you're doing. You got me hooked. But even as a movie, it's decent. Like I said, if it was a show, I'd probably give it an A if they paced it out right. Since it's a movie, B+. It was fun. It was cool. I liked it a lot. It's like at least an 85%. I don't know why Rotten Tomato gave it a 53. I say it's 85. But yeah, do yourself a favor and go check it out. I know this review is like an hour long, but talking about Mortal Kombat, I have to be at least an hour. Anyways, guys, do yourself a favor, go watch the movie because it's actually pretty damn good. This is your boy Poppy Wolf saying peace out, y'all. I'll catch you all later, and let me know how you enjoyed the movie. Catch you later, guys. Remember, 1,000 subscribers. Peace.